Next topic, Nintendo. They're taking down the internet, the Wi-Fi, for the Wii, the DS, and the DSi.
Taking down. Oh yeah, I mean they're not taking down the Wi-Fi. Otherwise, we can't connect anymore. They're taking down all the basically the server.
No more Mario Kart.
Yes,
No more
servers.
Smash.
The server.
No more Smash Bros. Brawl.
Yeah, and like honestly, I mean, we are all responsible here. Our parent company many years ago owned GameSpy Technologies, which was, IGN Entertainment bought a company called GameSpy Technology, GameSpy Industries, included GameSpy Technologies as well as GameSpy.com, right? Mm-hmm. GameSpy Technologies was focused on creating server browsing and multiplayer connectivity software for developers. So they licensed the software out. Right, so a lot of old PC games run on GameSpy Tech, but also Nintendo chose GameSpy Tech to build their infrastructure on, right? And so those guys were actually in the same building with us. Now they're actually owned by a company called Glue Mobile. They develop mobile games, and they took the GameSpy Tech tools, built them into their mobile games, but they stopped basically running this as a business. And so it's now up to publishers and developers if they want to continue to pay for the servers to be up. They have to pay Glue to basically pay and say, yes, keep all these servers running. And it's not that much money, so like if Nintendo wanted to sustain it and keep on going, they could do it. But Nintendo,
they didn't.
Well, Nintendo since then has invested in a completely different company, brought them in-house, and now the 3DS and Wii U run on completely different software.
Wow.
And so they probably said, hey, the activity levels are so low, it doesn't make sense to support this still. There's also support, right? Like stuff not working, they have to resolve all that. So they said, hey, let's stop doing it. Like other companies have done this, so it's not unique, right? Like Microsoft stopped paying for, I think it was Microsoft, for Flight Simulator, for example.
Oh, yeah.
So we know some of the guys over there who work on GameSpy, on the old GameSpy Tech tools, and they're like, yeah, man, everybody's mad at us, but, like we can't just run these servers for free. It's like the companies own the servers. And
wow, I'm like, that's really fascinating. I didn't know you had such a highly specific answer to that.
Yeah.
That's, man.
Yeah, look, I mean, one guy who works here still in the building, right? Like works for us and creates the IGN website. He worked directly with Nintendo to create a lot of the software and everything.
Wow.
So
could you explain why it didn't work that well?
Huh?
Can you explain why it didn't
You know
work
what?
that well?
A lot of that were choices Nintendo made, right?
God,
Like
Smash was so terrible.
Yeah.
Man. That was such a heartbreaker when Smash wouldn't work.
That's a really hard game to get right, I think,
I know,
because of
I
the
know.
latency issues, right? But no, like a lot of features, it was definitely in Nintendo's court. Like the actual software, GameSpy Tech always supported voice chat and these things, and Nintendo didn't want to do that because they had a very young audience, didn't want people screaming obscenities at each other, right? So
I can honestly say, looking back at my time with the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection, that I spent more time waiting for matches to happen than I did actually playing them. Yeah. But there were some cool things that happened. It was just always like, it was weird, right? Like Mario Kart DS finally went online. First Mario Kart to ever go online. And for me, it was huge because I grew up playing Mario Kart, but then I grew up. And I didn't have the luxury of having like a bunch of college roommates around me anymore. So finally I was like, cool, I'm going to play with all my college buddies and stuff like that. And then snaking happened. And the second snaking came in, it killed online for me. And I was like, everyone has to learn how to do this. And I'm like, this is not Mario Kart anymore. The same way, I mean, we always have this debate in the office about people play Smash. I play Smash Brothers with all the items on. Like, I have a fun time. Any level, don't care. Tim and the other video guys, they play Smash Brothers with no
weapons,
items,
final destination.
Yeah, it's like, and I always describe it as like it's the chef who's like, hey, I've prepared for you this amazing 25-course meal, and these guys are like, I only want the potatoes.
They're really good potatoes, though.
I know. They're good. They're good potatoes.
But what you're seeing there is it's not that hard adding online functionality to a game. It's very hard to figure out how to keep that stuff running, right? Like the moment you discover snaking, as the developer, you need to be able to issue a patch and change the game, or a feature where people can tag snakers as snakers and they get put into different matchmaking, right?
Yep.
Nintendo wasn't ready for it.
Now they know how to do
honestly, I mean, the one thing is for certain, Mario Kart was huge online. It was not a small game. It was as popular as games on Xbox Live.
Yep.
Like, it was humongous, and I don't think anybody expected it. Right?
Yeah.
And so they didn't have an infrastructure structure for patches and upgrades, and that's where you get something that is maybe great in the beginning but then deteriorates over time.
It was a weird time, too, because this is before you saw online games getting patched all the time, or most games getting patched. This was before most people had cell phones with the internet on them always. I mean, it was there. It was starting to get there. But, I mean, this was a time when Nintendo was like, hey, you guys want to use the internet? buy the Opera game pack, and you actually bought a web browser on a cartridge and you shoved it into a DSi and you went on the internet. It was incredibly slow and clunky.
And the little Nintendo Wi-Fi stick. Too,
yeah, and then there was like a USB plug that never worked, and you had to call. Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of weird because this is one of those things where they're killing it off, but it's bringing back just as many good memories as it is bad memories for me. Because I'm like, I remember so many times just waiting for it to work. Like
Mine
Smash
are all
Brothers.
bad memories.
Smash Brothers. Just like, there was that loading screen of the guy like standing in the blue background area, and he would just kind of wait for something to happen, and then it'd be like, sorry, go away.
And that's where I mean, my viewpoint of this is like, yes, it's sad that games that were once sold to you as having a feature will no longer have that feature, right? That's sad. It happens. It doesn't happen to every game, but it happens to a lot, right? Like you can't just jump on and play an old Xbox One game anymore.
Halo
either,
2,
right?
they made the big deal about it.
But luckily with games like Halo, you will have a company like Microsoft bringing the game back later in like an HD collection, and that could happen.
Right?
That could happen with games like this. I mean, Mario Kart old levels will come back in new games, and so I think it's fine. It's time to let this go. A lot of the games on the list, let's be honest, you didn't really want to play online.
Well, see, here's the thing. The two franchises it affects the most are Mario Kart and Pokemon. With Pokemon, with all the trading and the battling, especially with Heart Gold, Soul Silver.
Pokemon is a big one.
With those, to this day, there's like a huge community of people that battle over that. But what you're saying is correct. Like there is new Pokemon. There is new Mario Kart.
But hold on though. I mean, like Mario Kart Wii is in there, right? And that game is not that old, and it sold tens of millions of copies. Like this to me, this brings up an issue that one of our editors, Mitch Dyer, wrote about in a feature recently, which is about the preservation of games and how games do not like. If I wanted to watch Citizen Kane or some Gone with the Wind, there's ways for me to do that. But Harold Ramis passed away this week, and I was having lunch with a friend, and he was like, "Did you play the Ghostbusters game?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I did, but I don't remember it, and I'd like to play it again." And on my phone, I went on Amazon and I looked up the prices for it, and they're it's $110 to get the Ghostbusters game.
Really?
For
Like
Xbox
the old
360.
Commodore 64 one?
No, the one that's like kind of regarded as Ghostbusters 3. It came out a few years ago. It was on Wii and PS3 and Xbox and stuff like that. And it's on Steam, and I can go on Steam and get it, cheap. But if I want to play on one of my game consoles, that can't be done anymore. Like there isn't a way to do that for a game that's just a few years old, and that's kind of scary. And this is sort of happening the same thing with you take down the Wi-Fi connection on games like this, and you can play them locally forever. But every day now we watch new worlds close in video games. Well, it's happened with the Matrix Online a few years ago.
What happens to Titanfall in 10 years? Right?
I was saying
that is an online-only game.
I was saying that too.
I agree. I mean, it's sad that games are going to be more fleeting, but at the same time, like with this move, there are just so many things. Like you're replacing old infrastructure that is honestly not working great anymore. And so, like rather than trying to spend all this time to patch that, focus on making Mario Kart 8's multiplayer really good, right?
Sure.
And then let's move on from 7 and say, hey, you can still play LAN or local or whatever, right? In some of those old games. Fire Emblem, by the way, you can't play that online anymore either, right? Like you were able to do some of that.
Right, but I mean, that's like saying, there's new versions of Pokemon that come out all the time, right? But 150,000 people are playing this one on Twitch because they can. Like, I think that there's...
Do you think publishers need they need to support these games for 50 years? Or
No,
forever,
I don't think so because I think that's ridiculous. I totally agree with you. I just think we're at a weird impasse right now where we're creating these things that they're built to die within a few years, and that's very strange for me as somebody that's been consuming entertainment media my whole life. That I can go back and watch TV shows.
I mean,
I think it'll change, though.
Yeah, but there's so much interactivity, too. I mean, you're making it sound like Mario Kart just came out. It was like, 7 years ago? 6 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was living in the old place. I had still just moved here. Like
the old place, England.
I didn't even have my big TV yet. No, yeah. I mean, I think it had its chance. I'm sure Nintendo's watching those numbers, and I'm sure they're also trying to push you towards that Wii U.
Sure
Yeah. Go buy the Wii U if you still want to play Mario Kart.
Yeah, I don't think it's any coincidence that these things are dying out right before. Yeah, right after Pokemon, right before a new Mario Kart and a new Smash. I mean, I would love to see the numbers of the people still playing them now because it's probably abysmal. I remember when Halo 2 went offline, there were like a few people that are like, we just got to keep playing this, man.
Yeah.
Like, keep this last game going forever. Yeah. And there's something cool about that. And sad and tragic, but...
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't think Nintendo will ever release numbers. They've always been really quiet on online kind of concurrent users. Even when their numbers were amazing and they really should have gone out, which I will never understand that they never shared some of that data. But yeah, look, I think that we are though at a turning point where it used to be that games were tied to hardware 100%. Now we do have like VC and like we have re-releases, and Sony bought Gaikai for a reason. You're going to be streaming games, which means that the hardware that runs these games, either in emulation or whether it's it's something, right? Is probably gonna be able to preserve a lot of that online connectivity, right? Like I do think kind of like the platforms are gonna get normalized, and in the end, what's sitting in your house is no longer a console with the connectivity software connecting to a separate servers. I think it'll be all in one, run by Sony,
it's
Microsoft,
sort of like
Nintendo.
I feel like with each new step we take forward in video games, we leave a lot behind.
Sure.
And
BS Zelda, man, you can't play that anymore.
Sure, exactly. But I mean, like,
that was huge. No.
Sony and Microsoft this generation were both like, we don't really need backwards compatibility. And in fact, last generation they were kind of like, we don't really need it either. There was the PS3 launched in one model that played it, and they phased it out. The Xbox 360, they started emulating titles for it. They got to about 25 games, and like, it's over. Like, I mean, if there was a big rush for this, I think Nintendo would put out one of the Game Boy Color or Game Boy Pokemon games for the 3DS. Strip away all the LAN cable crap that used to happen back in the day and make it all Wi-Fi, right? That makes perfect sense. But they don't, and they won't, and there's no need to when they can focus on the next one.
Yep.
So, I mean, we lose a little bit each time, and that kind of worries me as the sort of like preservationist when it comes to old games, because the games we grew up playing, Super Mario Brothers and Super Mario Brothers 3 and Donkey Kong Country, we can play those forever because there's nothing like that's tied to the internet or something that requires it to be online forever. But these new gamers now, like, they're going to play things that go away for a few years. Like, if you were like 10 years, the people working at IGN 20 years from now are going to be like, I grew up playing Titanfall. Hey, yeah, let's boot that up. We can't.
Yeah,
that's kind of weird.
It's true, and there's no equivalent in Hollywood, right? Like it used. I mean, a ton of Hollywood movies were lost. Like scenes from movies were lost, and the whole the concept of preservation only really came into being really with kind of the DVD age and companies like Criterion really pushing to restore movies from and go back to old prints.
Yeah, even Star Wars was like in an old salt mine in Utah.
Yeah,
like no one thought to keep that on a nice shelf.
But it took that business, decades to come to terms with that and figure out how to preserve their content. And so I think gaming will get to that point too. It's going to be a little bit more complicated. I was thinking about this. Like the most complicated thing to preserve in Hollywood were like movies that were released with scratch and sniff cards or something. Where like you're watching Hairspray or something now and it says scratch number 8 now. You're like, what? Scratch what? Right? Like you cannot duplicate the original theater experience, but that's it. Everything else is just linear entertainment. But yeah, games. It's gonna be interesting. Titanfall, I think, is gonna be the first huge game that's all multiplayer, right? Like Team Fortress obviously is another one, but like on a console like that, it's gonna be.
Well, you're forgetting about DC Universe Online, of course. But
I forgot about the MMOs, and there are a lot of MMOs that are gone, wiped away now, right?
Yeah, like what's that going to be like for you, Greg, when one day this world that you spent like thousands of hours
what you talked about, the Halo 2, I will ride it down. I will be there when they turn off those servers.
That's awesome.
One day. Yeah,
that's
luckily
awesome.
I don't think we have to
because you've spent tens of thousands of hours like in this world, and one day you just can't go in anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Man. One day it'll all be over.
Yeah,
that's sad. I was real sad when we started gearing up for PlayStation 4, and it looked like it might not happen.
Yeah,
because that would have been the death knell for it, right?
Yeah,
but then now they brought it to PlayStation 4. So they got another 10 years out of this app.
You really like that game that much?
Yeah, I love DC Universe Online.
Phantasy Star Online is another one.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Remember that one?
Yeah.
Yep.
Calling All Cars. Can't play that online no more.
Oh, that's
they shut those servers.
Really? That's gone.
Yeah.
We named
David
a few games, and then you named Calling All Cars.
Hey, it's a great game.
You like that? You talked about that on Beyond
Calling
too.
All Cars was amazing.
Yeah,
it was fun for like 9 minutes. Then I had Called All Cars, and it was over.
So I think the real issue here is Nintendo was very late to the online game to begin with.
Is late.
They're still late.
Still not there.
And then the version of it they put out was not very good, and now it's gone. So it's this weird footnote in gaming history where, for years they were like, gamers don't want to play online. I mean, that was a quote from Nintendo directly. And then they made games that played online, and they didn't play well, and now you can't do that anymore. So
the good news is that it can mean reinvention, right? Like if you cling to the past and you try to keep on making services run forever, that often comes at the expense of innovating or just changing something from the ground up. And Nintendo's online services needed to be changed from the ground up. I'd argue they still need to be changed, right? Like the whole concept of one account across all platforms makes the most sense for a Nintendo, and they're not there yet. So.
which is crazy.
We'll see. I mean, let's see. Mario Kart 8. I think that's going to be the proving ground, right? And
I hope that proves it for Smash. I hope Mario Kart proves it so Smash can come in and just
exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, because otherwise we have to read this thing every single time a Nintendo game comes out. Every single time.
Yeah.
Where it says, we thought about online, but we really designed this around the, being friends on the couch, which is nice, and that's great, but you can do both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have friends on the couch.
You have kids.
Oh, that's right.
I don't even have those.
And you could probably beat the hell out of them at Mario Kart event.
Exactly.
You know what? They're getting better, though, now. Yeah.
Gotta step your game up.
Start beating up Pop soon.
I can't beat them in Terraria.